Let's start with a thought experiment. Let's say you live in an apartment building. It is 5 a.m. You wake up, you go to work. You go downstairs, your neighbor's door is half open. What you see is your neighbor, who is a disabled man. He's in a wheelchair, elderly. And he's being taken care of, being fed by a woman. That woman is your neighbor. She lives in the 4th floor. She is a single mom. And every morning she wakes up and she feeds her neighbor. She cleans his house. She gives him a shower. And then she goes upstairs to start the day and prepare her children for school. When you see this picture, how does that make you feel? Most people would be proud to be living in such a building, to have these neighbors. They associate this scene as a positive situation. Let me add to that story. 2 months prior to that situation, the son of that elderly man went upstairs to the 4th floor. He raped that neighbor. He told her that if she does not wake up every morning to feed his father and clean his house, he would come back and rape her children. Now, going back to that same situation in that morning, you look at that. Now how do you feel, knowing what you know? You're still watching the same situation of a woman feeding the elderly man, who, by the way, is exactly like his son. He is just disabled. Disgust is usually the feeling that people think of or feel when they imagine that situation. The analogy that I would be making is the next time you see a government bureaucrat giving money to the poor, you should ask yourself, how did this bureaucrat get his money in the first place? There are two sides to any coin. Now, let's continue with that scene. Let's imagine that the elderly man is a good man and his son is simply a rotten apple. Would that make a difference for you? Let's say that the son never raped that woman. He just threatened to rape her. Would that change anything? You know what? In fact, he never threatened to rape her at all. She inherited from her late husband 1 single Bitcoin, and she sold it to feed her children. She did not report it to the IRS. And he threatens, since she's done something illegal, that if she does not wake up every morning and take care of his father, he would tell the authorities what she's done. How about now? Is that okay? How does that scene feels? Hopefully this doesn't change anything. It should be obvious that in any way that you control people out of fear, out of coercion, with force, whatever good they do is good that is born in sin. Recently, Walter Williams passed away. He was a free thinker, and he gave an example that is similar to my example, but is beautifully phrased. I'm going to rephrase it a bit, but it goes something like that. You're in a park and you see a woman in need. She cannot take care of her children, she is sick or whatnot. And the question, do you have the moral right, since you don't have anything to give her, to find someone who looks to be well off and use force, use the gun, to take what they have and give it to that woman? Most people would agree that this is immoral. Now imagine you had other 20 people in that park, and you would advise them and you would have asked, do you guys think it's moral for me to take whatever these guys have and give it to her? And they would all agree yes. Now, is that moral to do, since you had 20 people agreeing with you? How about if you put a post on Facebook and tens of thousands of people have told you this is the moral thing to do? Does that make it moral for you to do? And finally, Walter Williams says, what if you had all the people who are over 18 years of age that are eligible to vote, and they would all tell you it is moral for you to do? Does that make it moral for you to do? Walter Whitman was making the point that what is illegal and immoral for an individual is also illegal and immoral for a state or a bureaucrat. And our moral needs to be consistent throughout to live in a society that we want to live in.